What's going on, everyone? It's been, gosh, it's probably been like 3 or 4 weeks at least since I had my last stream or video. Actually, probably longer than that from my last YouTube video. But today, it's going to be a pretty short uh, stream, but this video will be going up on YouTube. I just wanted to set aside some time to actually talk about Alien Romulus. So the movie has been out now for what, 3 weeks? Um, yeah, 3 weeks. And I initially wasn't going to make this video until I'd at least seen the movie 2 or 3 times. I've still only seen the movie once, which was opening night. Um, I plan to go see it again. I was going to go see it last week, but plans got in the way, work and family life has just been busy. So hopefully this weekend I might get to go see it again. Um, but I've at least had, 3 weeks now to let the movie sit with me. I've been thinking about it every day. So I wanted to make sort of like a full review going through the movie and my overall thoughts and opinions on it. So I've got a whole list here of things that I want to talk about. Hopefully, we'll touch on all of them, and I'll probably forget some things once I end the video. I'll be like, oh, I should have talked about that. But there's always more time for that in the future. So, all in all, the movie as a whole, the first things that I thought about leaving the theater um, and some of these things I wasn't surprised at because of the trailers, and some of these I were. The practical effects in the movie are absolutely incredible. I The team did such a great job, and now that we've seen like more behind the scenes pictures and video footage that's gone up on YouTube and other art websites from like the concept artists, which we'll get into that too. It's so cool to see what the artist came up with conceptually, and then what we saw on the screen in the final cut of the film. Um, from the Jackson Star Colony to the sets and the labs on the space station to the corridors to the Corbellan ship that they took up to the Renaissance station. Everything, the creatures, everything practically that was made for this film is amazing. And I'm still seeing so many pictures and videos of these sets, and I'm like seeing zero green screens. That's, to me, that blows my mind for a movie like this. Um and I love it. I mean, it's just incredible the effort that the team went in to make this movie feel very real. And then the other thing, I guess maybe one or two things that I left the theater with was the sound design. It it's probably some of the best sound design I've heard in a film in a very long time. Uh, the sound effects, the music, the creature effects, the dialogue. I've seen some people complain that there are bits of dialogue that are hard to hear. I didn't have that issue. Maybe depending on the type of theater that you go see it in, that could be a problem, but I didn't experience any of that. And then the characters, specifically Rain and Andy, both of them, their relationship throughout the film, our introduction into how their relationship is at the beginning of the film when they're on the colony, and how that builds throughout the movie, I just thought was awesome. And Andy specifically, for me, he stole the show in this film. Don't get me wrong, I think the entire cast was brilliant. Um, Everyone did a great job. The dialogue felt real and everything. But for me, Andy, David Johnson's character he's probably my favorite character of the movie. Um, so yeah, those are sort of like my initial things that I was thinking about when we left. Um, I will be getting into some spoilers now that the movie's been out for 3 weeks. They're, I feel like it's, it's time to start talking about this. It's been out long enough. Um, so if you aren't interested in spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie yet, go ahead, pause the video, go see the movie, and come back when you're finished. I think before we get into some of the details, overall, I when I left the theater, a friend of mine texted me because he knew I was going to see it. And he was like, "So what'd you think?" And I told him I was like, I would give this movie a solid 9 or 9.5 out of 10. Now that I've had some time to sit with it, and again, I definitely need to go see it again because it's just so much to absorb. Even even having seen the trailers and everything, it was still a lot to absorb seeing some of this stuff. And now that I've had some time to sit with it and think about things, especially some of the things that did sort of bug me in the movie, I feel like I'm still fairly close to that rating, maybe an 8.5 or a 9. Um, yeah, there. So I definitely need to see it again. So let's start going down the list and talking about this stuff. I'm hoping to keep this video at 30 minutes, but that's going to be tough. So first thing on my list, Life on Jackson's Star. I thought the colony was great. Um, when I saw some of the pictures and footage that like the artists and production crew were posting online about like the colony and how they made it and the settings that they were building this around, it just they they pulled it off brilliantly. Um, it's a very dirty colony. I love the design of the little like housing units that they have. The like the vehicles that are driving around. It's very dirty, muddy, grimy. Everything fit that. The actual um, like terraforming reactor that was there, I thought was a great design too. And then you also just get an idea of how busy and hectic building a better world, as Wayland Utani would say. Um, how crazy that is when a planet isn't quite like it's people can live on it, but it's definitely not very comfortable. Like it's complete cloud coverage all the time, no sunlight. Uh, it's like storming a lot, um, and so it's just very dirty and uncomfortable. And even like on the colony, you got a sense of claustrophobia, which I think Fede did an amazing job in this film overall with the tension and claustrophobia, which we'll get into some of that as well when we talk about the artists. And then so like when Rain, she thinks like she has hope, and she's like, oh, I've done my time on the colony. Now me and Andy will be able to leave the planet and go to, um, uh, they'll be able to leave and go to a better place. And then they turn her down in the office, and they say, "Oh no, instead of 12, I think it was 12,000 working hours, you had to reach 24,000." So they doubled it. And so then she, she's lost the hope that she had, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And so like part of me wanted to see more of the colony, but for pacing, I understood why they wanted to get up to the space station and get things moving. I personally thought the pacing of the movie was really good. You had a nice slow build throughout the first, I don't know how many minutes, at least 40 minutes, I feel like, until things started to pick up. So the pacing felt really good. And yeah, Jackson Star, I thought was just a great environment. It was really cool to see that. Hadley's Hope on Aliens, we get to see a tiny glimpse of a busy colony, but this was just incredible to me. Um, and like the set design, like all the technology that they had, the computers, the Aspen beer cans that were hanging around, the little like coffee mugs that you would see in the first film, the visual continuity, like the bar sign that we've seen video games and Aliens and Hadley's Hope. That visual continuity is just awesome. So yeah, enough on that for now. So Alien Isolation, as we have long known, was a big inspiration for this film. It was definitely one of the primary if not the primary reason why Fede even came up with this story. Um, because as he was playing the game, he was like, "Oh, we can definitely like make a really scary alien story in this modern age." Um, and so we've seen in like the lead up to the film, like the emergency save stations, which is cool. Those are scattered throughout the obviously throughout the space station and in the film. One thing I thought that was really cool that Fede touched on was how they are very strategically placed so that when you see them on in a scene, if you can spot them, you know something's probably going to go wrong pretty soon. And that was actually, fairly true when you're playing the game because you'd get through this tense situation in the game, and then you're like, oh, thank God, there's a safe station, and I can save the game and take my breath, and then we'll keep pushing. Um, and so when you see those in the movie, you spot it, you're like, oh shit, what's about to happen? So for me, and then even other things like the way they're opening doors and starting up generators and stuff like that was also very true. The design of like the crank, the levers and stuff that they were using, it was right out of Isolation. So for me, like that Isolation has already become like one of the highlights of Alien expanded universe entertainment. And I hope that that this also I've already seen like it's encouraged people to be like, oh, I've actually never played that, let me go play that. So I just think that's amazing. And we've got, I don't know if we'll ever see another Isolation type game. I don't know if we'll ever see a sequel or anything. I know we've got Rogue Incursion, the VR game that's coming out this holiday season from Servios. So we'll see how that is. I do have high hopes for that because of Alex White, the writer, but we'll see. So, yeah, Alien Isolation, the influence that it had on film was just really really awesome. Oh, thanks, Medellin. All right, next thing on the list, because I want to keep. I'm probably not going to do too much editing on this video when it goes on YouTube, so we'll see. So yeah, next on the list was Alex White. So Alex White, for those that don't know, uh, they they have written probably my favorite so far that I've read. I haven't read all of the Alien novels, but they've written Cold Forge and Into Charybdis, which are some of the best um, some of the best novels in the expanded universe. Thanks for following. Appreciate it. Um, so it was really cool to see that that Alex had, they pulled stuff from Cold Forge, like the Renaissance space station, is a space station that they're doing research. They've captured Big Chap. They're reverse engineering Big Chap and its DNA to then create and grow face huggers. And so to see that type of like just gruesome and creepy research that they're doing was really cool. And that, like in the Cold Forge like station is like a research facility. So that in and of itself, that type of storyline was really cool to see. And then they mentioned, Plagiaris prepotens, which is the black goo. And Alex, I can't remember exactly what that translates to directly. I know Alex has talked about that on podcasts, but I don't remember offhand. So just hearing that in the film is like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like it, it seemed like Fede pulled from so many great things in the expanded universe and put them into the film. And seeing that, having that again, like the continuity, um, and and like going kind of more in depth with the black goo and how it's engineered to make these different face huggers and stuff, and so that's kind of why they look a little bit different in Romulus. They have more of a black tone. Originally, Dane Hallett one of my favorite concept artists. I think he had originally made the face huggers like basically all black, but then Fede told him to sort of pull back from that. So they've definitely got like a very black like main body, but then their fingers are a little bit more pale. Um, so yeah, the labs, the research labs, the type of experiments that were going on, it just gets when you see like the Romulus lab and the Remus lab and everything, it's just so cool and it just gets your brain thinking in like what were they doing here? Like what types of experiments were going on that we haven't seen um that weren't shown because this station has been abandoned. Um And I guess just one quick note on the Perfect Organism Alien podcast. Alex was a recent guest on their latest episode, I think. So go listen to that. And yeah, it's Alex is phenomenal, and I'm really excited too. That I'm not going to talk about Rogue Incursion too much, the new game coming out, but the fact that Alex is the writer on this just gets me really excited for that. They know the alien universe, what makes it scary, what makes like a good story, and they're putting in new ideas and stuff in the stuff they've written, so it's just awesome. Okay, I already touched on visual continuity, set design, practical effects, creature design. The entire team, like legacy effects, industrial light and magic, they uh Shane Gillis, what's his name, Shane McMahon, I think, or not Shane Gillis, Alec Gillis and Shane McMahon. I knew I got that wrong. Their creature designs, Weta Workshop with like the RC face huggers. There were so many talented individuals that worked on this film, and I was especially happy to see these guys, the face huggers, get a little bit more of a prominent role, more screen time in the film. Obviously, they did do some like digital effects and stuff with some of them, but for the most part, it was all practical, and you can see that it feels real. You can like it just comes through on screen. It feels like a real world. I can't say that enough. The set design, practical effects. So I'm gonna skip ahead because I'm gonna go back to some of the art stuff. I think probably towards the end. Um, and then we'll also get to I guess some of the things I had issues with probably towards the end as well because I want to keep this mostly positive. Uh, as far as like the musical score and the soundtrack, so Benjamin Wallfish, who's done a handful of films, he has a pretty close relationship with Hans Zimmer, and it definitely shows in the type of music that he creates. Um, Overall, I love the score. I think it has so many great new things, and I'm curious to know. I really hope that we get more information on like the process that he went through because some of the sounds and things that he created in the music, I'm like, I don't even know how he made that. Uh, it's it's just so different. And so I really hope we get that. But I loved it. I've been listening to the soundtrack probably at least once a day since it was released. Um, so I thought he did a great job. I didn't. I feel like so something I'm still sort of on the fence about is in the film there there's a moment when they're seeing like the lab with the black goo. There's a little bit where they play the Prometheus theme. And then there's another part in the film where they play like the trumpet of sort of the main alien theme that we've heard time and time again. I know some people have issues with those types of like musical callbacks. For me, I don't think it bothers me that much, honestly. I think when I first heard it, it caught me off guard, but honestly, I'm kind of fine with that. Especially like the main alien theme, like the trumpet. I feel like that if that's not in an alien film, it's like it's the theme. Like it's something you would come to expect, just like you'd come to expect like the music in Star Wars and stuff, like that they have some things that are sort of repeated in each film. Um, Same with the Prometheus theme. It definitely caught me off guard, but it's subtle enough in the film that it's kind of easy to not notice, but if you have a sharp ear, you'll notice it. But yeah, I thought the score was great. Specifically, some of the tracks like there's something in the water where they have that first encounter with the face huggers. I thought was very intense, um, and heart pounding. Also, in I think it's the track "He's Glitchy" where Andy is having like freezing up. There's a very strong like bump 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 like bass going, and that actually reminded me a little bit of the Med Lab music that they used in Covenant. So I don't know if they were going for like a similar feel for that tension, but I thought it was a nice touch. And then other tracks like The Offspring, very haunting. The first track, The Chrysalis, where they is at the beginning of the film where they find Big Chap and they go back and break him out of the cocoon. Um, there's a lot of like vocals and like choirs and voices, and I really like that touch. To the overall score. It definitely made me feel like I was watching Alien 3 because Goldenthal used a lot of like choir and voices in his score as well. So I just thought that was really good. Great score overall. In my opinion, not really a bad track on the whole thing. Okay, score's great. Characters were great. I've sort of touched on the characters. I guess like we'll kind of get into characters and dialogue. I think overall, um, the dialogue felt real. It felt natural. The way that the characters were interacting with each other. Um, like people like so Bjorn, who many people disliked, but for good reasons. Like he was not a likable character, and that was on purpose. He's racist. He's just kind of an asshole in the film, and for sure, like kind of when you see him meet his demise, you feel a little bit not as bad as you do with some of the other losses. Um, but yeah, overall, I thought each character was uniquely different. Again, seeing like the different types of relationships that were going on in the film between Rain and Andy, and then Rain and Tyler and his cousin Kay, and then Kay and Bjorn, who come to find out that Bjorn is actually the father of the offspring. And so, and then and Navarro as well. And I guess I'm not surprised that we didn't that Navarro didn't have a lot of screen time because we've seen from the trailers that she gets chest bursted. So I would have liked to see a little bit more from her, but I thought she was a good character all in all. I know Fede has admitted that I think at least Kay and Navarro were inspired by characters from The Last of Us, which I thought was cool. Um, yeah, Navarro had like a tropical shirt on, similar to Brett in the first film. She had cowboy boots on. I thought that was cool. All the like again like the practical effects, the costume design also was excellent. Like the clothes were all dirty and worn. It also felt like those were the types of clothes that you would wear on a mining colony, on a planet that's being terraformed. So it definitely felt like it fit the world that they were living in. Um, I thought it was great. Kay's scream when she sees Navarro get chest bursted was gave me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps just talking about it. That was one of the best like horror screams I've heard since, I mean, really since Lambert in the first film. I thought it was awesome. Tyler was another interesting character. I really liked him. I'd actually, for some reason, and I don't know why, for some reason, my first impression from watching the trailers, I didn't think I was gonna like him, but it turns out like he seemed like a really good guy, and a strong, just a strong character overall. Like he was very kind and compassionate towards Rain. Um, and he was also, trying to be brave in a lot of the situations. So I really liked him. Um, One thing that I'm still curious about is, he knew how to use the pulse rifle in the film. He showed Rain how to use it, and then like there were certain things like how they were like, I think it was when they were trying to get the cooling canisters, um, for the coolant or the fuel, and like he knew how to do certain things technically on the station. I'm like, how does he know this? And I know in the film he's like, oh well, I just knew it from video games, like the using the rifle and stuff. Um, but I'm I'm I feel like there's something that there's some mystery to him. Like either he has previous military experience. I know I've seen some crazy theories saying like some people think that Tyler was like a covert Wayland Utani employee. I don't think that's true. I feel like that's a bit of a reach, but who knows? Nonetheless, having those types of conversations and getting your brain thinking as to what like who they are, I thought that's great writing in my opinion. Um, and then Andy, his dad jokes, that added some nice levity to the movie, some nice humorous moments. Uh, and his like him telling Rain those, and then his transition between sort of like the malfunctioning brother android, and then when he gets the science officer chip put in, and his personality changes. Those acting transitions were flawless in my opinion. I just thought he did such a great job in that role. I really hope he gets an awards plural for this film. It was just awesome. Okay, so now some of the things I did not like. One of those things is something that Andy actually said in the film. So when they're in the elevator shaft, Andy and Rain, and they're fighting Scorched and the aliens, um, Andy saves Rain and kills Scorched, and then he delivers the line, "Get away from her, you bitch," and that's the same line, obviously that Ripley uses in the second film, when she's confronting the Queen in the power loader. Now, I have to say, like, I think maybe for more like casual moviegoers, they might enjoy stuff like that. I personally, it just makes me cringe most of the time. Um, I saw someone talked about like how like he should have like said a dad joke or something silly after he killed him instead of that line, which I agree. Like that would, to me, that would have fit his character more. Now the way he delivered it was different than how Ripley said it. So it was a different delivery, but still having the same line, I just thought was just silly. It was unnecessary. I know from someone someone who has seen the film, who saw like an earlier cut of the film, they have gone on to say that that line was not in like the earlier cut of the film. So I'm not really sure when it was added and who made that decision, whether it was Fed. I have a feeling it wasn't Fede, that it was someone at the studio, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. Um, so yeah, that was something that I really don't like. I feel like when I was younger, it was cool to hear stuff like that, recycled lines. But now that I've gotten older, um, my appreciation for film is different than it was when I was growing up, and so for me, it just feels it takes me out of the story. So yeah, I didn't really care for that. And my biggest, I guess, issue with the film, um, was having Rook in the film. And so they used Ian Holm's likeness. Uh, the actor, I can't remember the actor's name, but they had a voice actor, uh, who did a really good impression of Ian Holm, his voice. They had a voice actor come in to do the lines. Um, and then I have a feeling they altered his voice maybe slightly in post. I'm not sure, in post production and editing, but again, I hope we kind of get a little bit more backstory on that. I know that Rook, So like Ian Holmes' likeness was not initially supposed to be used for that character. Like initially, I think it was a woman, and then it was changed to someone else. And they also like they they actually did use like an animatronic for like his part of the body because he's all torn apart and messed up from the acid. So they actually did use an animatronic for that character, but and they had an animatronic face, but instead they used like CG, like some sort of deep fake stuff for his face. So when he's talking, it's when every time he comes on the screen, it's just like whoa, because the rest of the film, as I've said, is filled with amazing practical effects, practical creatures. All the sets are built. So when you're surrounded by an entire movie that's filled with the real things that you can touch, and then it cuts to him and you see like the CG face, and it just looks off. I have to say, it just bugged me. I know like there are some people that said that they shouldn't have used Ian Holm in the film. I think for story wise, it makes sense. Because he wouldn't have been the only android that looks like that. And with this taking place 20 years after the first film, I wouldn't see it wouldn't be a surprise why they would still have those types of androids being used, especially when it comes to researching the aliens. So for me, like I don't think I have a big issue with them using Ian Holmes' likeness. It just would have been nice if, rest his soul, if Ian Holm could have it would have lived long enough to be able to fill that role again. I feel like though, because I've seen from some of the concept artists, I feel like some of the earlier art showed like his having Rook's face like more mangled up, and I feel like they could have made an animatronic work with his face. Maybe not. I would really like to know why they chose to go with computer generated effects for like him speaking and stuff, because they've done it in the past. I mean, they've done it with Bishop in Alien 3. They he had like the mangled up face, and when he's talking to Ripley, like it just I feel like they could have done it. But so that to me is probably my biggest issue with the film. And then there's just quite a bit of exposition from Rook throughout the film. And again, for me, I didn't necessarily like it a whole lot, but at the same time, if I'm someone coming into the movie fresh and I've never seen an alien film, I understand story wise why they would have some of that exposition to explain. I don't know if that's I kind of like again, I'm sort of on the fence about that because I'm like most moviegoers are intelligent enough to be able to figure things out for themselves. And so I really just wish that Rook as a character didn't have as much of a role, as prominent of a role in the film as he did. I guess I don't think I would have it wouldn't have bothered me as much if he was just in the movie for like a scene or two. But the fact that he's like sort of the main villain aside from all obviously the aliens, it yeah, it just kind of wore on me a little bit throughout the film. But again, I need to see it again. I know another concept that they were, I think, playing around with was that just the mother computer. So it wasn't going to be obviously like Rook is being controlled through mother and everything, but like I think in one of the earlier drafts, it was just going to be mother in the computer system. So yeah, I know like I think Ridley Scott was very big on having Rook and Ian Holm in there. I know his family, Ian Holm's family, was uh, very happy to see him being featured, and they gave like their permission. So like for me, that definitely warms my heart a little bit when it comes to how that all played out. And so like I guess getting on like building on that, I talked about like if I was a new alien, if I was a just a moviegoer and was like, I want to go see a scary movie. Oh, Aliens out. I'm going to go see that. Maybe I haven't seen any of the films and I'm just going in fresh. You can definitely go into this movie not having seen the others, not having read any of the comic books, any of the novels, played any of the games, and you can go and see it and you'll enjoy it. Part of the reason I say this is because when I went to go see the film, I went with my wife, she's seen all the movies, but she hasn't necessarily read any of the comic books or novels or anything. She's watched me play Isolation, but she hasn't played it herself. And then also, one of my friends from work came with us, and he has zero exposure to Alien. He's never seen the movies or anything, and he really enjoyed it. Um, he said he loved it. He loved the body horror. He loved the effects. He loved the music. He loved the sound. He loved the acting. He said he was really engaged. So I was kind of glad that I had a friend there that didn't have any like alien experience, see the movie and get their opinion on it. Um, because it's just going to be quite a bit different than how I feel about the movie. Like when they're talking about Plagiaris Prepotens in the movie and they're saying those things, and you see the black goo, and then you have like the moments of like seeing stuff that you've seen in Alien Isolation or stuff that you've read in the novels or comic books. You get like I just get really excited, and obviously my buddy next to me didn't really understand, but that's okay. He still thought it was cool. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting to have that perspective. Yeah, that was cool. And then I think another thing too, like Scorched. I can't wait until I get my hands on one of the NECA figures for Scorched. I thought the alien design in this was awesome. It actually kind of like Scorched sort of reminds me of like some of the aliens, the design, the artwork that Killian Plunkett used in Aliens Labyrinth. It definitely felt a little bit more comic booky. I don't know if that was on purpose. Again, we need to get more interviews and behind the scenes information into the development. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Okay. A couple quick things, I guess, before we get to the third act. The zero G acid blood scene I thought was awesome. Um, it was really cool to see like acid blood and a zero G sequence in an alien film, and how Rain and Andy like overcame that. Because I remember seeing the trailers, thinking like, I don't know how they're gonna get out of this. Like, what are they gonna do? Um, I love that scene. I thought it was great. Let's see, set design, practical effects. Okay, Offspring. The Offspring was terrifying, and I like it was so cool. Like going to see this movie opening night, the theater was like mostly full. There were a couple empty seats, but it was mostly full. So it was like one of the biggest audiences I've had in a film like going experience recently. And when Kay gives birth to the offspring and it comes out and then it starts growing, it like the audience was just like gasping and grossed out. It was just it was so cool to see. Um and then again too, like if you look, you can easily find now, like Fede's posted on his social media, you can find pictures and video footage. Like that is an actual person, a basketball player who's like 7'7", and they like dressed him up with makeup and a suit and stuff to look like that. So that's actually what was on screen. That's what Kaylee Spaney was looking at on screen. It's so cool. I personally thought it was a cool creature design. I thought it's definitely a better hybrid, like alien hybrid design than the newborn. I liked it a lot better. Um, and so yeah, for me the only thing that I didn't like about the whole third act with the offspring was like I just wish it was longer. Like I just kind of wish that the offspring was in the film for a longer period of time. But that's okay. I mean, like all in all, the movie flew by with its 2 hours, and it did not feel like 2 hours. So I thought the Offspring was a nice addition to creatures design and the story elements and how like the black goo affects uh other organisms and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. I know like in the earlier version, one of the earlier versions of the film, the offspring was actually like supposed to keep growing, and it was supposed to grow like an elongated head, more like a xenomorph, and like grow longer back tubes. I'm really glad that they didn't do that. I know Mike's Monsters, if you look him up on YouTube, he's got a great video talking about this, and I totally agree with what he said. It's like the offspring enough was a very surprising reveal in the film. Uh, and to have it like maybe even grow even more and turn into a xenomorph, that would just add some confusion and stuff. So I'm glad that they kept it to that, to the design that we actually see. I thought that was cool. All right, so I've touched on that, touched on that, touched on that. Okay, so last but certainly not least is some of the concept art. So I've already talked about set design and everything, but I did want to mention some of the concept art because I thought it was just a really not like smart approach to the film. So if you go on AVP Galaxy, uh, avpgalaxy.net, they have and if you haven't visited them before, I highly recommend it. They always have like new articles as news breaks and stuff for Alien and Predator stuff, whether it's books, comic books, anything. So they have an article, or they, within the past week or so, like the concept artists have started like showing off some of the work that they did on the film, whether it's creature design, set design, and whatnot. So if you go um, on here and this article, artists begin to share their work. I just like the going into like the hangar design for the space station. What I like about a lot of this, and you don't always see this with other films, is a lot of the concept art is very close to what we end up with, and you don't always see that. Um, Sometimes it's through budgetary reasons or story reasons, but like I really like the fact that like what we see in this concept art is very similar to what we ended up seeing on screen. So like this is one of like some of the earlier art for Rook, and I wish they would have gone with more something like this, where his face is disfigured and get the animatronic to work. Nick Stath, who is he's quickly becoming one of my favorite artists. So like he designed the Hive, and he's actually, I think, uh, earlier in his career, he's an architect. So he's like actually educated and trained as an architect. And so like when he was designing a lot of like areas in the space station, he used that architecture knowledge to create this. And so like he talks about how like in the Hive he used like these like sloped ceilings to like make it feel like the ceiling is pressing down on you to like add more claustrophobia. And I thought that was extremely effective. I thought it was again just brilliant. Um, then we have stuff like the Corbellin. I don't know I feel like it's Corbellin, but I don't know. But Matt Savage created this, and so like I really hope Eagle Moss, the toy company, they create like a model of this. I just think it's really cool. And the behind the scenes of them filming like the practical model, like the way they had this up against this like huge curved projected screen to film that, like it's just so impressive to me. Then there's a lot of like stuff for Jackson Star. I love the colony. It just was really cool. Then you have some stuff here on costume design, going through different iterations of costumes. And then again, Dane Howlett is one of my favorites. He's his creatures design work is impeccable. And so he designed the cocoon. Again, that's something I haven't touched on, but like the fact that Fede included this stage of the alien life cycle in the film was epic. I loved it. I loved it. It was so, that was probably one of my favorite scenes where Bjorn finds the cocoon. He doesn't know what he's looking at as the audience for the first time. You don't really know what you're looking at, and it's just that's perfect. That's what you want. Then here's like one of the earlier iterations of the newborn by Santiago Vicino. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Then we have like an actual storyboard scene of Bjorn's death. Another thing, really quick, because Bjorn's death reminded me like something that I've now read and heard is that like a lot of what was actually seen on screen and what was shown in the cut, the theatrical cut, um really didn't vary much from like the earlier cuts of the film, which is cool. I think that tells me that Fede, his co-writer, the rest of the crew and team, like they knew what they wanted to make and they did it. And they focused on that 100%. When you have a script that's like constantly changing, which the Alien universe is definitely familiar with, yeah, it's it's nice to see that, like, nice to hear so far at least, um, that what we saw in the theater was like what they intended us to see, and there weren't like many reshoots or anything like that. Hey Ella, I'm good. How are you? So that's about it. I've been talking now for 45 minutes. I think that's enough. I think I've touched on almost everything um that I really wanted to talk about. Again, I'll make more videos as I feel like there's something I really want to talk about. Um I hope to have another AVP 2010 stream because I started that game like a couple weeks ago before Romulus came out, and then Romulus came out, and I haven't really been able to focus on anything else. So, um, we'll be doing that soon. This video that'll be on Twitch is also going to be on YouTube. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, thanks for watching. And I may end up also, I've been thinking about potentially streaming some on YouTube as well. Uh, I feel like it would be kind of nice to have everything in one place, like these individual uploads as well as streaming video games. Also, when it comes to things like bitrate and internet speeds, YouTube is a can be a bit friendlier in that regard, but I know, like, I think there's a little bit more lag in the chat. Maybe I need to look that, like, actually do some more research on that, but we'll see. So hopefully I'll be doing another stream soon. um Again, if you've watched this video on YouTube, thanks for watching. If you like it, please hit the thumbs up. um Stick around for more. I don't know what type of video I'll be doing next. I may do some of my collection, make a video on that if people are interested. Medellin, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Ella, thanks for stopping by. And I'll talk to you soon.